Hello, this is attempt number 2 at recording this video. I recorded the whole thing last night and there was some weird issues with the camera, but hopefully they've been fixed. If they haven't, then you'll never see this video and I'll be recording take 3 probably later on tonight. I really hope that's not the case. Anyway, welcome back to the channel, everybody. What is up? I'm Eric and we're just continuing our journey to get a little bit better. And I wanted to talk about pain and suffering in this video. Hey everybody, I went to go start editing this video and realized that I explained something in the previous video that I didn't explain in this one. So yeah, no artwork, empty bookcase, random box on the chair that Miley's gonna complain about when she watches this video. Hi honey. We're moving. We are moving to a different spot. If you want to follow along with that journey, then check out Miley and Eric, our vlog channel. I'll put a link down below if you want to check that out and follow us along on our new journey. And yeah, I went to go edit this and realized I didn't give that disclaimer and I needed to. So anyway, on with the video. Welcome to all the new folks. Since the last video, you all seem to really enjoy me taking a fictional piece of literature and taking an element of that and applying it to my own journey when in that one in particular was especially regarding my mental health. And so we're gonna keep that train rolling and look at other books that I've read, including fiction, and how they affect my life and my attempt to get a little bit better every day. And yeah, I really appreciate all the comments on the last video. How that video either helped you all, you hadn't contextualized that part of the book, or if you are a huge Sanderson fan and you just really enjoyed the video and enjoyed finding the channel, then that's awesome too. Welcome to everyone. Let's talk about the Dresden Files. So that's another series that I've really enjoyed by Jim Butcher. It's not for everyone. I personally really like it. There's a new book coming out in the next couple months. But I specifically want to talk about book 9 in the series, White Knight. There is a quote in that book that really was pretty affecting to me the first time that I read it, and I still kind of carry it with me, even though I've left book 9 in my dust as I read my way through the 17 currently released books and now eagerly awaiting book 18. And yeah, I'm going to, much like in the Sanderson video last time, you all didn't seem to mind me like reading off the monitor. So I'm going to do that again just to share the quote with you all. And then also it kind of overlaps with another book that I read that, you know, when I started this channel, I wanted it to be accessible for everyone. And that meant keeping things kind of PG, maybe a little PG-13. And that's difficult because this book, I'll just show the cover right here, has a curse in it. And so I'm just going to call it The Subtle Art by Mark Manson. And yeah, that's how I'm going to reference the book, just so I can keep things, to the standard that I want to keep them on this channel. So there's an interesting overlap of Jim Butcher's White Knight as part of the Dresden Files and this book, The Subtle Art, and there's a third contender that will be brought up later in the video. Stay tuned. But first off, I want to share the quote from White Knight and then the content of a certain section of The Subtle Art, and then we'll get into how it's applied to where I'm at right now. Okay, y'all ready? Here comes the quote from White Knight by Jim Butcher. Growing up is all about getting hurt and then getting over it. You hurt, you recover, you move on. Odds are pretty good you're just going to get hurt again, but each time you learn something. Each time you come out of it a little stronger, and at some point you realize that there are more flavors of pain than coffee. There's the little empty pain of leaving something behind, graduating, taking the next step forward, walking out of something familiar and safe into the unknown. There's the big whirling pain of life upending all of your plans and expectations. There's the sharp little pains of failure and the more obscure aches of successes that didn't give you what you thought they would. There are the vicious stabbing pains of hopes being torn up, the sweet little pains of finding others, giving them your love, and taking joy in their life as they grow and learn. There's the steady pain of empathy that you shrug off so that you can stand beside a wounded friend and help them bear their burdens. And if you're very, very lucky, there are a very few blazing hot little pains you feel when you realize that you are standing in a moment of utter perfection, an instant of triumph or happiness or mirth, which at the same time cannot possibly last, and yet will remain with you for life. Everyone is down on pain because they forget something important about it. Pain is for the living. Only the dead don't feel it. Pain is a part of life. Sometimes it's a big part, and sometimes it isn't. But either way, it's a part of the big puzzle, the deep music, the great game. Pain does two things. It teaches you, tells you that you're alive. Then it passes away and leaves you changed. It leaves you wiser sometimes. Sometimes it leaves you stronger. Either way, pain leaves its mark, and everything important that will ever happen to you in life is going to involve it in one degree or another. Yeah, pain. So I think this is something that we oftentimes get mixed up on. Like we view pain as this very negative thing when, I mean, even from the time that we're babies, our greatest teacher is pain. Before we are capable of communicating with our parents to understand hey, don't touch the hot thing because it's going to burn. We can touch the hot thing and then it burns and we know I don't want to touch that again. And it can be these so many things that we carry with us for the entirety of our lives are based upon pain. There are so many people that I know that dislike dogs because at a very young age, a dog maybe came at them barking or maybe even nipped them or bit them. And so now 30, 40 years later, there's no, I don't do dogs. Nope. I'm sure your dog's very sweet. I don't like dogs. I don't want to be around them. They terrify me, which is totally fine. I'm not negating anybody's lived experience, but we spend so much time running away from pain and trying to avoid pain. And pain doesn't have to be a bad thing. And this is where the overlap with the subtle art comes in, because Mark Manson shares the story of Buddha and kind of the origin story of how Buddha became the Buddha. And it's this very interesting story about a prince who lived in a palace, and this prince's father decided, I'm going to do right by my son and give him everything, food, clothing, bedding. Those are essentials, but built high walls to where the prince would never be bothered by those that he didn't want to be bothered by, and all these things. Tried to make a perfect life. And then the prince finally went outside of the walls with his servant and saw what life was like for people outside of the walls and was horrified at the suffering that he witnessed for the first time. And he found that his life was kind of meaningless. Even before he witnessed the suffering of others, it just, all of this opulent wealth didn't mean anything to him, and he felt like his life was empty. So he decided that he was going to give up everything, his royalty, his riches, his palace, all of it, and go live amongst the people to try and find a sense of meaning and understanding and happiness in life. And he did that for years, and then discovered the very understandable truth that suffering kind of sucks. People don't do it because it's fun, and there's no romanticism about it. And so he didn't find any kind of meaning in intentional suffering either. So he went and sat under a big tree for 49 days and came to the conclusion that suffering is a part of life, and that life in turn is a form of suffering. The rich suffer because of their wealth. The poor suffer because of their poverty. People without family suffer because of the lack of a family. People with family suffer because of their family. And, people who have worldly pleasures suffer because of them. People who abstain from worldly pleasures suffer because they don't have them. And so, yeah, this whole notion is what the philosophy of Buddhism kind of was born from. And Mark Manson goes on in the book to continue to build off this idea that happiness is not an equation to be solved. It's not once I have X, then I will be happy, or once I look like Y, I will be happy, or once I am with Z person, then I will be happy. Life is suffering. The question is, what kind of suffering are you going to choose? Because largely, once again, everybody's lives are unique, and there are plenty of circumstances to where people suffer from things that are outside of their control. I am purely talking about my own personal journey and kind of a journey of goal setting and trying to get better and self-improvement and all this kind of stuff. So in that lens, you get to pick your poison when it comes to pain and suffering. Because, so the last video was a lot about mental health and mental well-being. And this video is going to largely focus on physical health and well-being. And later on in the video, I am going to get into things like tracking calories and exercise and things like that. So if that is a topic that you don't want to engage with, totally understand. This may not be the video for you. I'm glad that you stuck around this long just so you could get the quotes and kind of the story, and you can take that with you. If you want to stick around, once again, none of the things that I'm going to be talking about are prescriptive. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I am sharing what is working for me and what my goals are and what my journey looks like. So once again, I'm not telling anybody to do anything, but if you still don't want to stick around, totally understand. So my physical health and well-being is something that I have fought with a lot for a long time. And that's been kind of something that's been brought up over the course of these videos. And you all will recall that, those of you that have been around the channel for a while, that there was a video I did a while back where I had this whole morning routine where I was waking up at 6:30 in the morning. And, I was meditating and visualizing and doing affirmations and exercising. And, it was great for the month that it lasted, but it didn't last. And because it was a level of suffering that I wasn't willing to put up with, and it wasn't sustainable for me. My personal physical health, just to get into it and peel back the layers a little bit, I am somebody that is not satisfied with the way my body physically looks. I am not satisfied with my physical appearance. Having said that, every time I go to the doctor, which I do go to the doctor not as much as I should, but more often than I think most people my age, so I'm somewhere in the middle. But every time I go to the doctor and we do tests, we do blood pressure, we do labs, all this stuff, and we get the results back and look over them and talk about them, I'm very healthy. Resting heart rate, solid. Blood pressure, actually excellent. Cholesterol levels, great. I mean, all the labs come back right in within range of where they should be. With one exception, my white blood cell count had a medical thing when I was younger in my teen years that kind of wrecked my immune system, which, it is what it is. But that's not something that's within my control to improve. It's just a chronic thing that I get to live with now. But having said that, everything that I am in control of when it comes to my health, greens across the board. So I am not an unhealthy person. People might look at me and think I appear to be an unhealthy person, but I'm not. And that's an important distinction and conversation that needs to be had with a lot of people. Having said that, I personally am not satisfied with where I'm at from a physical standpoint. And so that's where I'm coming from in this conversation. And that's why I want to give that preface before we jump into it. Because while right now, my physical health is great, the way I was living prior to really starting this channel, and then, it's been peaks and valleys since I started this channel. But I know that the sustainability of that lifestyle is not something that was going to last forever. I was going to hit a point where, electing to have a 1,500 calorie dinner every other night, or going out for ice cream every night, or whatever, was going to catch up with me. Like, that's just the way the human body works. And all of this is just, staving off the inevitable. Like any health and wellness journey, you're just trying to add time to the clock, which is another conversation that we can have in another video, but I don't want to get into that right now. But you have to pick your pain and suffering. That's the point I'm getting at. I can elect to not have any pain and suffering right now, not track my calories, not exercise, not get my heart rate up, not lift weights, not do any of that stuff. I can coast. And then 10, 15, 20 years down the line, I'm going to have pain and suffering. It will come because I didn't go through pain and suffering now. Does that make sense? My poor choices of indulgence now will eventually have consequences down the road in the form of pain and suffering. Just like when I quit smoking, I could have elected, no, quitting smoking sucks. I don't want to go through that. So I'm just going to keep smoking. And that would have been fine until even not lung cancer. You know, your lungs get wrecked from smoking. So like persistent coughing, shortness of breath, heart disease, dental issues, all of these things that come from smoking. Those would have been forms of pain and suffering that I would have had to contend with had I not gone through the pain and suffering of quitting smoking. And some of them are things I might have to contend with because I didn't go through the pain and suffering quitting smoking sooner. But I have mitigated a lot of those things because I chose to suffer, like 5 years ago? Hey, like 5 years ago. That's pretty neat. Or maybe 4. Anyway, it's a good number. So that's the idea that Manson gets through the lens of Buddhism in The Subtle Art, is that we have to pick our suffering in life. Well, we have to suffer in life. Whether or not we have the desire to control that suffering, that's up to us. We don't have to, but it will come eventually. So getting back to what I'm doing now, because that whole waking up at 6:30 and spending the first hour and a half of my day doing all these different things was great, but not sustainable. So here's where the third element, if this is a Venn diagram of Jim Butcher's Dresden Files and Mark Manson's Subtle Art, here's the third contender coming up. I downloaded TikTok not too long ago, and my For You page was kind of the Wild West there starting out, but now it's got me pretty well figured out. And it's pretty well locked into Book Talk. Obviously, I spend a lot of time, I think every video I've talked about books on this channel, so clearly I'm a reader. But also Fit Talk, fitness TikTok, has been something that it's shown me a lot of. And some remarkably good creators on that platform that are doing great work on destigmatizing fat loss. Important distinction, fat loss, not weight loss, fat loss. So here's the deal. I could get really in the weeds about, intermittent fasting, keto, vegan, Whole30, hard 75, just all these things. Or I could do the easy thing. Still a form of pain and suffering, but I can do the easy thing, which is remain in a calorie deficit, lift weights, make sure I hit my protein every day. Full stop. That's it. And the important thing with the calorie deficit thing is you have to do it intelligently. You don't want to suffer for nothing. And that's what happened to me about a decade ago. Is I was extremely unhappy with the way that I looked, and I thought I found a solution to my problem that was quick and easy and very straightforward. And some people that I'm not going to begrudge them this because some people that I trusted vouched for it, which got me on board. And it's not something that should have been vouched for. Like I said, I don't hold that against them because this whole thing is set up to get people in. I'm not going to drop names. I'm not going to point fingers. Maybe down the road I will elect to do that, but I still know plenty of people that are in that lifestyle, and I just don't want to deal with any kind of drama. So anyway, essentially I started taking health and wellness advice from people that I should not have been taking health and wellness advice from, and was consuming like 1,200 calories a day, maybe 1,500 on a good day. And I lost 100 pounds in under a year, but I played football throughout high school. I lifted weights like 5 times a week for 4 years of my life. So even though I hadn't lifted weights in a while at that point, I still had a good, base layer of muscle. But when you're consuming that little, your body has to eat something to survive. And, I was losing fat. I was also losing a lot of muscle, and that's where a lot of the weight went because I was literally starving myself. So that was a form of pain and suffering that I didn't need to go through because I did it without being smart about it, without thinking things through, and without fully understanding what I was signing up for. And as I've talked about on this channel before, I gained all the weight back, all of it, 100%, except I didn't have that base layer of muscle anymore. It was just all body fat. So yeah. So pain and suffering for the sake of pain and suffering is not a good idea either. But you want to be smart. You want to approach these things with the idea of sustainability and longevity in mind. So, like I said, there's a calculator. Like if you type in TDEE calculator in Google, you'll find a website where you can plug in your age, your weight, your height, activity level, all these things. And it will give you, here's how many calories your body needs to stay exactly the way you are right now. And then you subtract 15%, 20% from that. Like I said, the first time that I lost all the weight, I was consuming 1,500 calories a day. You know how many calories I'm consuming now and losing weight? 2,700 calories. Yeah. Because that's the smart way to do it. And sure, I'm not losing as quick as I did before, but I'm gaining muscle. My body composition is shifting slowly but surely. And I'm lifting weights, which is building back that layer of muscle, which raises my metabolism and is going to make it easier to keep the weight off long term. And it's just very simple. And, you know, from a protein standpoint, I'm just eggs, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, chicken, a lot of chicken. But I'm cooking it in fun ways. Like I do chicken nuggets in the air fryer, or chicken ramen that I make with like a whole chicken breast in it. And for dinners, we're doing burgers, we're doing bratwurst, steak. We'll go out to eat, and I'm still consistently staying within where I want to be, because the idea isn't to consume as little as possible. That's not the kind of pain and suffering that you want to go through. The idea is to consume as much as possible while still being in the deficit that you set for yourself. So it's not like, okay, it says I can consume up to 2,700 calories a day, but if I can, I'm only going to consume 1,500. No. There have been days where in the day, it's like an hour before I'm wanting to go lay down for bed, like I still have 400 calories left for the day. What can I eat so I can get some more protein in? Or what do I want to eat? What's something that sounds really good right now? I have a bowl of cereal and it's delicious, and I feel like a kid because I'm eating cereal at 11 o'clock at night. And it's great. So that's where I'm at with the whole physical wellness, because the suffering is weightlifting. That's the kind of suffering that I have chosen to experience, because the caloric restriction thing isn't really suffering. I'm not denying myself anything. I'm like Miley and I still go to Brahms on occasion and get ice cream because we're smart about it. We both know how many calories we have in a day. We both know our target of what we're wanting to hit. And so we can go get ice cream. And we just manage that. So the suffering that I've chosen is weightlifting. And I'm probably going to be playing some clips of me lifting weights and kind of showing what I've been up to up there next to my noggin. But the reason that I want to talk about choosing your suffering, because I had to get up and deal with something for like a half hour, so I have no idea where I was at. Anyway, so I guess the larger point that I'm just trying to make through all of this is find pain and suffering that you're going to enjoy. That's what it was. I'm weightlifting. I'm doing that. And that is the suffering that I'm electing to put myself through. And if I would have decided, you know what, I'm going to wake up every morning, I'm going to go run a mile, I wouldn't last a week, because I hate running. Running's awful. It's terrible. And even back when I was losing all the weight and I was running really consistently and got to the point where I was running like 7-minute mile pace for my entire run, I hated it the whole time. Never once enjoyed running. So I know that that is something that is not going to be a sustainable thing for me. I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not going to engage with it. I'm not going to look forward to it. I look forward to weightlifting. Today's actually a rest day. And on rest days, I get itchy. I'm just like, I want to be lifting weights. So additionally, I'm still riding the Peloton a couple times a week because I enjoy it. I enjoy the instructors. I enjoy the music. I enjoy the pace, all of that kind of thing. So I found things that I enjoy engaging with. And I also have tried things in the past that I don't enjoy engaging with. I tried pickup basketball with some friends a few years back, and we all got hurt. We all got injured after like 4 games. And it was like, this is clearly not for us. Like we're not where we need to be to have a good time doing this. And so I know that stuff like that, I'm not going to enjoy and be able to do long term, but it's all about picking your pain and suffering and what you're going to put yourself through so that hopefully, at least in the areas in which you're electing to go through pain and suffering, you can avoid a different form of suffering down the road, because you're going to suffer. It's just which flavor of pain are you wanting to go through? And that's where things like, a lot of really negative things can be said rightfully about social media, about application platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all these things. There are plenty of negative things to be discussed and to go through. But something that I will argue is positive is it does allow for a level of engagement when it comes to information like fitness, because you have so many voices. And you can discard the ones that clearly are just trying to sell you something, trying to get clicks, trying to get engagement. And you can find the ones that have studies backing up what they're talking about, or, have decades of experience and certifications and things like that. You can find those people on these platforms and engage with them and ask them questions and really get some good insight into what they have to say and kind of the science behind their methodology. And so, the further I went down this rabbit hole and found more and more personal trainers saying, it's just calories in versus calories out when it comes to fat loss. There are plenty of other health benefits for things outside of that, like eating holistically, avoiding certain chemicals in your food, all of this stuff. There are conversations to be had surrounding that. But when we're talking about fat loss, which is what I am looking to do right now, be in a calorie deficit. And they cited their sources, and I got to go down that rabbit hole and look at, where did we get to this conclusion? Why is it this way? And then also talking about strength training and why strength training is better than cardio for long-term fat loss, and going down that rabbit hole. And so these platforms do allow you, if you're willing to put in the time and effort to do it intelligently, going down those rabbit holes and finding the information so that you can decide what kind of suffering is going to work for you. Because like I said, I'm weightlifting. The key is strength training, according to the research that I found. So that could be body weight work, push-ups, like you can do stuff around your house if you don't want to weightlift. So anyway, that's just kind of where I've been at, is this weird intersection of White Knight by Jim Butcher, The Subtle Art by Mark Manson, and TikTok has led me to where I'm currently at. So let me know down below how you're doing, how things have been, whether or not the quote from Jim Butcher or the story of Buddha as told by Mark Manson in his book had an impact, or you enjoyed it. And let me know what kind of stuff you want me to talk about next on the channel. I'm still open to figuring out what the heck we're doing here. So yeah, thank you all, and I will see you next time.